Hi, Edward Unthank. Let's talk about AI and AI in the new world. We're going to be expanding upon some of the good work that's been done already into the marketing thought leadership world. We're going to be saying that the primary of a new AI first tech stack is to have a data core. The data core is something like a collection of lakes, data warehouses, whatever else, tables, whatever else you want to come up with as a cleverness, but basically to say that all system data goes into this data core. And then the whole point on that, as we know, there are a lot of systems that have significant data behind them. They may have things like person activities on lead and contact. They may have things like activity table. They may have things like opportunities, theoretically, although I'm not going to put that one in here. And other than that, the example then is we have other areas instead of just person activity campaigns or programs. I'll go with programs here. Then these are kind of some fundamental tables. The point on this is that the AI future looks like having all of this. I'm calling this leased data. When you have a SaaS tool and you have databases that are just in there, we'll just call those leased because you're renting that database from them. And the problem is this, or rather the difference is that this data core is owned. You own all of the data within this data core. The point on this is that when you're dealing with agentic and AI, you need to have the agents go through and have a fast response to any of the updates. And so instead of, we have model A here, or an approach A, where we have an agent, and I'll do this approach again, capital A, this agent, if you're asking this agent to say, like, how many campaigns this year, maintained this year. If you ask that kind of question without this data core, what happens is this will go off into a Marketo and pull all of this via the REST API. That's a big pull. If you're asking for all of the, if you're asking for the people object, anything like that, you're going to get more data than you can even understand how to deal with, or rather, it's not that you can get a bunch of data. The problem is that you will not be able to consistently pull all of it in an ongoing real-time basis via just the REST API from the leased database. And so instead of going into the leased database of Marketo when you ask it, how many campaigns this year? Instead, you need to go to somewhere that's kind of behind the curtain, aka you already have access to it. It's not security problems in order to ask. You're not pulling a tool and API calls that might be dangerous and doing writing as well as reading. You need to instead go into a read-only approach on the data core. And that means that Marketo just is making sure that you're ETLing and reverse ETLing from Marketo's leased database into your data core, into the collection of all of the tables. And then your agent goes through a fast lane into the data core and then can pull directly from this combination of data lakes, data warehouses, and everything else like this. An example is, we'll just go with it. We'll just go with Snowflake is a great example of a way you can make a data core, a collection of all these things. And then an improvement is that the agent doesn't ask individual tools, because when you ask individual tools, it's temporary, I'll call it ephemeral, and it's also slow, and it also is it's API call heavy and fragile, I'd say. So a better improvement is you don't have the agent calling off and doing a bunch of REST calls and a bunch of tool calls here. Instead, you put all of that properly from Marketo and Salesforce into a data core, and then your agent has read access to that Snowflake, that data core object. And that is a way to speed things up monumentally, as well as being future-proof, because then we're talking about properly having a reverse ETL and ETL excuse me, sync between these things. You want to get it into an area where you can properly read it, and that is when you're talking about in this data core. So this is why we talk about you need a data core is agents directly going into these leased tools is you're going to get slow and incomprehensive and fragile configurations of pulling data from Salesforce or Marketo, or at least until these get into the command line speed. And instead, the future proofing looks like a data core. And then it becomes operations job to make sure that this data core via a Fivetran, via ETL, however you want to do that, Segment, Snowflake, your own tools, it's that we primarily need to make sure that the connection is here, that it's maintained, that you have all of the information from leased into your data core so that your agents may use via the data core, not going to tool calls. So thank you so much. This is why we talk about this, because of course, theoretically, you could go direct agent to Marketo or to Salesforce. The problem with that is the API calls are not that perfect. They're not instantaneous. They're not comprehensive. You need queuing, you need batching, everything else in part of that. It's much easier to just put it all into a Snowflake and then have your agents have access to that data core. So thanks so much, Edward Unthank. I'm going to be building out the new AI first world. This is the foundation of it. Even if you're going Marketo, if you're going to composable, all of it, it looks more and more and more like the foundation is the data core. So Edward Unthank, follow along if you want some more content. I'm designing all of this right now. Thanks.